Hey everyone, Kyle once again. Welcome back to another review, but not another movie review. And now since we're at the end, once again near the end of 2014, so I just did like my memoriam of the well-known actors who passed away this year. Well now, but I will also promise that earlier in the year, halfway through the year, promised that I would review that all the films that have been box office bombs this year. There was a lot of films that I predicted and I was correct. Of course, there were some films that I did, but they turned to be a surprise hit, and those films proved me wrong. They wouldn't flop, so they didn't. So now, once again, I made my list right here of all the films that I know that are big box office. Well, there's big box office bombs and there's little box office bombs. Films with big budgets, of course, films with little budgets, but still didn't make money. So, here my complete list of box office bombs of 2014, the full list. This is, of course, there's some of these films I've said earlier in this year, but I'm gonna do the full list, including with all these other films that didn't do well as well. So here we go. The first big box office flop was that started out at the start of this year, in January, on January 10th. The Legend of Hercules. This one was a big box office flop on a budget of a cost of 70 million. In total, it made 18 million in the U.S. and did worldwide. It made 61 million, and it was a big box office bomb. And which especially this film was directed by Renny Harlin, who I know directed many great films that I've enjoyed, like Die Hard 2, Cliffhanger, Deep Blue Sea, and among others. And so he directed this film, one of the two films that were about Hercules. It's just 14. This film and the one that's called Hercules that starred Dwayne Johnson. That film actually performed better domestically and worldwide in box office, and much more bigger budget though. And this one didn't do well, and it was universally panned by critics, and it was a big, had like, I think it was like a 3% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, so this film by Renny Harlin just didn't do well. So Legend of Hercules, on a budget of 70 million, made 61 million and 18 million in the US. So that was a flop as well. The first big box office bomb of 2014. Moving on, the next film is I, Frankenstein. I, Frankenstein was a film that's another dark fantasy film that was from the creators of Underworld, and it starred Aaron Eckhart, as Frankenstein, And I saw this, because I had a look during earlier in late 2013. I was looking forward to seeing it, because Aaron Eckhart's playing as Frankenstein, And I saw it though, it wasn't good. If Aaron Eckhart was the only thing that was good in the film, the rest of the film was wasn't that good at all. But the film had a bad opening weekend, and it didn't do well in the U.S. So on a budget it had a budget of 65 million. It made domestically 19 million, but worldwide it made 71. So with help overseas, it made just a little bit more over the budget, but still, it's in the U.S. that's a domestic box office flop. So. Yeah, 19 million, a budget of 65 million, but overall worldwide made 71 million. Since it did poorly in the U.S., I consider it as a box office flop as well in my book, So, yeah. Next, the film is supposed to be a drama film called Labor Day. Starred Josh Brolin and Kate Winslet, I believe. Yeah. And that also had a poor opening. This one had a minimum budget of 18 million, but it still didn't do well. It made overall 14 million, a budget of 18 million. Of course, domestically it made 13, so made 1 million overseas, and it didn't help either way. So that film was a minimal box office flop. So yeah, 14 million on a budget of 18 million. Didn't do well. The next film that was also considered a box office flop, Vampire Academy. Vampire Academy came out. It did poorly because it came out on the same weekend as the Lego Movie. You know, that film had a big opening weekend. This film did so poorly in the box office. On a budget of 30 million, made 15 million. Barely half of the film's budget. You know, so. And they also they try to plan to raise money to try to make a sequel to that film, but barely no money was made. So this film's gonna be left like, well, how should I say it, stuck in the cold, stuck in the Jordan and forgot about, you know, because no sequel will be made and no probably will forget about this film, you know. And I saw that film was no good at all, you know. And so I would say it deserves to be a flop, you know. So yeah. 15 million. It made 7 million in the U.S., 15 million worldwide. Budget of 30 million. Considered a box office bomb. Now the next one. This one I would hope would be a big box office flop. You know, well, I was halfway right because it did poorly in the U.S. You know, but of course it made a lot of money overseas though. But oh well, but at least I was half right in this film, and that is the RoboCop remake. You know, the shitty remake that was of a classic, cool '80s action film. You know, I love RoboCop to death. Peter Weller, outstanding as the original RoboCop. This guy who plays RoboCop, forgettable performance. You know, and I did put this on my worst of this year. You know. It was an unneeded remake. Didn't need to be made whatsoever. And of course, like I said, this film did not do well in the U.S. It made 58 million in the U.S. But overall, it made, with help of overseas, it made 242 million on a budget of 130 million. You know. So yeah, maybe some people consider it as a success because with the help of overseas, you know. But in the U.S., it was a big, I would say, it's a big flop. Domestically in the U.S. So yeah, 50 million in the U.S. on a budget of 130 million, but of course with help overseas, you know, 242 million worldwide though. But at least I was half right. I'm glad the film bombed in the U.S. You know, it was just yeah, and even the film in the money it made in the U.S. even that was just like slightly above how much the original RoboCop made overall, you know. I believe it was 57 million, and this film made 58, just barely making over what the original RoboCops made overall, you know. So yeah. So in my book, it deserves to be a big flop in the U.S., you know. So screw RoboCop 2014. Next film is another I would say another big flop. It was a film called like a fantasy drama film called Winter's Tale. Starred Colin Farrell and Russell Crowe, you know, and I believe that Will Smith had like a small role in it as well. Winter's Tale, that film was another big flop as well, you know. And I think it was the first film directed by Akivia Goldsman, who was a writer on a lot of films. Also, this was his first time directing, you know. I never saw Winter's Tale, but just looking at the film, you know, I was like, you know. And the film did poorly. Made just 12 million in the U.S. and worldwide it made 30 million on a budget of 60 million. So that's another costly box office flop right there. So 30 million, a budget of 60 million, 12 million in the U.S. That's not a box office bomb, you know. And this one here, you know, when it comes to films, the next one is when I see films that cost like over what cost 90 million and over 100 million and up, you know. That's why I predict it's gonna be a box office flop, though. I wonder, you know. And of course this film I predicted was correctly, you know. This next film was Pompeii. Pompeii. This is the film that was directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, who directed most of the Resident Evil films, you know. Of course he directed Paul W. S. Anderson. You know, I wish he could stick a banking the good films like he did in the '90s, like Mortal Kombat, um, Event Horizon. I love Event Horizon. Um, what was it on? A Soldier. Soldier was that was a good film. That didn't do well either. You know. I would put those as three best films, you know. And I'm not a fan of the Resident Evil films, you know. Even though Paul W. S. Anderson didn't direct the second or third film though, but he directed the first, fourth, and fifth film. And he's supposed to be directing the last sixth film as well though. But he directed this film, Pompeii, you know. And this was another big box office flop. It cost $100 million, and it made in the U.S. it made $23 million. And of course, it made $108 million worldwide. Yeah, so yeah, 108 like $8 million over the budget, but still, but it did extremely poorly in the U.S. So that's what I consider that another big box office bomb. You know, so $23 million in the U.S., $108 million and a budget of $100 million. So in my book, I put that as a big box office flop because it did poorly in the U.S. You know, and just barely made it over $100 million. You know. So Pompeii, yeah. The next film, this one had a small budget though, but still did poorly though. But and this film only made money in the U.S., didn't make any money overseas though. And this is a film called Veronica Mars. And Veronica Mars was a TV show before this. You know, it starred Kirsten Bell. Kirsten Bell, who voiced Anna in Frozen, Disney's Frozen. Before this, she starred this TV show called Veronica Mars, and she starred this theoretical release film, you know, based on the show, you know, as the same character she come back as, you know. And this film had a small budget, of $6 million, but it had a poor opening. You know, I think it debuted at number 11, and overall in the U.S. alone, just made like over $3 million. That was it. So yeah, even films with small budgets still doesn't do well at all, you know. Sometimes it even has with a full theatrical release, and sometimes other films is due to limited releases, you know. But this film had a small budget, and this film was released theoretically, fully, you know, but still didn't do well. So yeah, just like I said, it only made money in the U.S., didn't make any money overseas though. So just in the U.S. it made $3 million and on a budget of $6 million. So that's like a small flop right there though. Now the next film, this one I did see, and it completely sucked. And this is one I definitely put on one of my worst films of this year. And that is one of Arnold Schwarzenegger's newest films called Sabotage. This film, I just don't know what to say, you know. I don't want to say anything, but I'll say when I do my worst films of this year, 2014. But for now, I'll just describe what it did in the box office. Yeah, so this film, I did see it, and it completely sucked, you know. And this film had a budget of $35 million, and also had a poor opening as well, and debuted number 7, and made just $10 million in the U.S. and a little money overseas to make it combined total, make it $14 million. So yeah, that much, $14 million, a budget of just $35 million. Didn't do well, you know. And this film deserved a flop as well, in my opinion, you know. So yeah, so Sabotage, Arnold Schwarzenegger, it was no good, and it was a box office flop overall. $35 million, a budget of $14 million. So yeah, moving on next. Now this was another film that I haven't seen, you know, but it was when I tried looking it up, you know, of course, you know, can't trust Wikipedia sometimes though, but couldn't find it as well, so I had to go and trust it, you know. This is a film that had a limited release, but it still made at least some bit of money though, but not much. This is a film. It was like a science fiction film called Under the Skin. It was a film that stars Scarlett Johansson. She plays with this alien or something, you know. Like it's like in some country in Europe, you know. I think it was I think it was like Scotland or Germany or somewhere, you know. And this film, I believe it was like a 13 million, 300 million. It was like 13,300,000. it was like 13,300,000,000 budget. Yeah, so that was like a small, like a decent budget though, but it didn't have enough money to make it. In the U.S., had like a limited release in the U.S., made 2 million, a little bit of money overseas to make it 5 million. So it with like a decent small budget though, with like 13,300, still didn't do well. So I haven't seen it though, um, but it's just. So I wouldn't know how good it is. I think it was also like it was supposed to be like a science fiction thriller or science fiction um something. I just don't know what it is. I haven't seen it, so all I know is this didn't do well. It's just all I know is this didn't do well. So now the next one is another big box office flop. And this was a film I did not I predicted though, but I didn't expect to do that poorly. And that is Transcendence, starring Johnny Depp. Who guy who gets poisoned. And they hook up his mind into the supercomputer. And that film didn't did poorly. And it's funny that they made almost like the exact amount of money they did in the U.S. It's like Pompeii. That film made 23 million in the U.S. Same here. Transcendence made also 23 million in the U.S. Had a debuted at number 4. And on a budget, it's also on a budget of 100 million and made 103 million. So that just barely made over 100, but still, I would consider that as another big box office flop. 23 million in the U.S. on a budget of 100 million. I did not expect that film to do that well. I just didn't expect it to do so poorly. Especially with it stars with Johnny Depp, Paul Bettany, Rebecca Hall, and Cillian Murphy and Morgan Freeman. Even Josh Stewart had a role in it as well. And it was also produced by Christopher Nolan as well. So yeah. So Christopher Nolan had a hand in and. Oh, especially, even, which is weird because Transcendence, this is a role that Johnny Depp just plays, just a normal guy, he wasn't playing such a wacky character, So even Johnny Depp does play a normal guy, the film still doesn't do well, Go figure. He'll just make my playing wacky characters like Alice in Wonderland, and the Lone Ranger. No, that still made some money, but it was still a huge box office flop as well, Yeah, but the Transcendence that didn't do well at all. 23 million domestically, 103 million overall, on a budget of 100 million. That still put that as a big box office flop, bomb. Yeah. So next, this film also did very poorly. This is an animated film that I've never seen. Had no interest in seeing it. Even despite with a good cast, voice cast, And that is Legends of Oz: Dorothy's Return. So Legends of Oz: Dorothy's Return it was an animated film that had like a lot of good actors voicing, like Kelsey Grammer, Oliver Platt, Jim Belushi, Martin Short. What else? Who else had some voicing in it? I forget though, but I know there was more actors that were voicing him, especially those actors I just mentioned. This is an animated film that I saw the trailer, and especially when I saw its budget on this film cost, I was like, really? That cost that much? And I saw the trailer. I just knew that film was going to be a big box office flop. On a budget of 70 million, in which I'm like, I did not see whatsoever. It's like, really? It looked the way the film looked like one of those cheap, low budgeted animated films, So yeah, this film had a budget of 70 million, and it did very poorly. It made 8 million in the U.S. and made overall 18 million. So this film did very poorly and barely made any money. So yeah, 8 million in the West and 18 million overall on a budget of 70 million. That's a big box office flop right there, Box office bomb. So yeah. So I had no interest in seeing it. No, it was supposed to be like a sequel to the original, I guess, because Dorothy's returns to me, all these new characters and everything. I don't know. It's just never seen it. So yeah, so it was another big box office bomb. 70 million budget and made 18 million. Next film, now this film that I saw that I did enjoy, and it's gonna go figure. This film was a big box office flop in the U.S. though. In the U.S. it was a big box office flop, and that made me mad, And because I really did enjoy this film. This is one of my best films of this year, Edge of Tomorrow. Yeah, Edge of Tomorrow. Yeah, it made a lot of money overseas though, but on such a mega budget, it did very poorly in the U.S. Yeah, so this film had a big budget of 170 million, and domestically it made 100 million. Yeah, or with the help of overseas, it made 369 million though. But I consider it as a big box office flop in the U.S. Because it's like the same thing with that 2007 film, The Golden Compass, or Waterworld, Those films had like budgets of like 170 something, and yeah, they made money overseas as well though, but they just did very poorly in the U.S. Golden Compass, I believe, made like 80 million in the U.S. on a budget of 100 and I think I also believe 178 million as well, or was it 180 million? I forget though. But Golden Compass overall made 300 and something, but that was considered as a big box office flop in the U.S. And same thing, it was the same thing with Waterworld. That had a big budget of 175 million. Yeah, it made like 200. I think it was 200 something worldwide though, but it made like 88 million in the U.S. In the U.S. And that's also considered one of the biggest box office flops of all time as well. So that's why I consider because of Edge of Tomorrow falling in the same category like those films. Big budget like the same big budget film like 170 million, and it made domestically 100 million. It was also the same thing like Cowboys and Aliens, and I love Cowboys and Aliens. That also made 100 million in the U.S. and on a big budget of 163 million made 174 million. That's also considered a big box office bomb. That's why I put this to the film in the Edge of Tomorrow in the category, and those films, did poorly in domesticated. It helped make some money overseas to help go over that though, but still domestically in the U.S. though, it's still a big box office flop. That's why I had to put it on there. And I'm just pissed about it. Because I enjoy Edge of Tomorrow a lot. It was a great film, and I'm just mad that it did poorly in the U.S. Go figure. Good film. I see a good film and didn't do well. Yeah. So yeah, that's Edge of Tomorrow. In my book, a major box office flop in the U.S. though. But even though it happens with overseas though, but still. Moving on. The next film. This one I believe also got a limited release though. So it was a film that I have not seen. It was called The Rover. The Rover. It starred of Guy Pearce and Robert Pattinson. This film had a modest budget of 12 million. I think it had a limited release and it made only just barely over a little over 1 million overall. It made like a million something in the U.S. and made just very little overseas to combine. And it still stayed within the million range. Under 2 million. So with that, it made that much on a budget of 12 million. That's still I consider like another small box office flop, on a budget of 12 million, barely under 2 million. So that's because of that. Well, under 2 million, a little over a million. That's considered a box office flop as well. So The Rover, I haven't seen it, but moving on. The next film was a comedy film. A film that was directed by Rob Reiner. Starred Michael Douglas and Diane Keaton, and then it was a film called As So It Goes. So it starred Michael Keaton. It was directed by Rob Reiner, and the film had on a budget of 30 million, and no, another film that didn't do well. It made 15 million in the West, and it made 25 million overall. So yeah, so it was close, but get so far though. So yeah, 25 million overall on a budget of 30 million. Did another box office flop. So yeah. So it goes. No. Now next film, I did see, and I did not, and I did hated it. Put another film putting on my worst films of this year. Sin City, A Dame to Kill For. So this I saw and I just did not like it at all. Yeah. So even though some of the characters from the first film come back though, but like Bruce Willis and Mickey Rourke, and such, but there were segments that were like most of the segments that were like prequels, and of course I think I do remember there was one segment that acts like a sequel after the first film though. I mean, I enjoyed the first Sin City film, but after with Robert Rodriguez, his reputation with all this, he made some good films, especially from Dusk Till Dawn, Desperado, Once Upon a Time in Mexico, The Faculty, But they started making the films they made, like the Machete 1 and 2, Spy Kids films. I never liked those films. And then I saw this. He also produced Predators. That didn't do well. I did not like the film at all. And then he directed this. And that's like the final straw for me for Robert Rodriguez. Oh, of course, also he helped direct Planetara. That's another film I do enjoy. Grindhouse. I enjoy Grindhouse. Yes, he started making some good films, but then he made some of the bad ones. As of recently. And this falls in This falls into more into one of his bad films, Of course, I think he helped co-direct it with the film. I think with the thing was creator called Frank Miller. This film had a budget of 65 million and had a very poor opening. It made 13 million in the U.S. and made 37 million. So yeah, that film deserved to flop because they also said that they said the reason why the film didn't do well was because had like a 9-year gap since the first film, since the first film came out in 2005, and no anything involved for a sequel or anything was involved since until this year, so that's probably maybe they consider part of the reason why it didn't do well, so. But either way, film I just think it still deserves to flop, So on a budget of 65 million, it made overall 37 million. So since A Dame to Kill For. No good whatsoever. The next film was that it was a film called The Identical. It was supposed to be like a film that starred Seth Green, Ashley Judd, Ray Liotta. It was like the thing started was like an Elvis impersonator, I believe. I don't know. I haven't seen The Identical, so I wouldn't know. But the film had a budget of 16 million and had a very poor opening. I think it debuted like a number 12 or something and made just like 2 million in the U.S. Didn't make any money overseas though. So just in the U.S. alone, made like over 2 million, and that was it. On a budget of 16 million. So that film didn't do well at all. So Identical, another small domestic flop. And now this next film, which is I consider another very disappointing film, especially this guy has also directed some great films as well, And this next film I really did hate it, and that was a film called Tusk. And I also put this on one of my worst films of this year as well, so you'll probably know that when I do the video of it. So yeah, Tusk. Why I say why it was a shame, because this is directed by Kevin Smith, who directed a lot of great comedy films like Clerks, Clerks 2, Chasing Amy, Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, But oh no, well also he also directed Jersey Girl, but I think that film was an okay film though, but since I followed Kevin Smith since then, he directed these poorly films, called of course Zack and Mary Make a Porno, and then Red State, and then he directed this film, and now he's going to be directing 2 more films called this for this trilogy along with Tusk, Yeah, this film had a very this film was on a very low budget of 3 million, but had, like I said, I don't know how this film got a theoretical release. It made only like just like a little over 1 million on a budget of 3 million. It's like same thing with Veronica Mars, had like a small budget, but it still didn't make money. So yeah, on a budget of 3 million, it still didn't do well on a budget a little over 1 million. So, but I will explain why too. But I will explain why, why, indeed, and further why I explain about the film. Why I put on, why I put that, like I said, but do put this on one of my worst films of this year. So you should see that in my video when I do it. So yeah, Tusk, budget 3 million, made like or 1 million. That was it. Next film, there was another film that I believe also got a limited release though. And there's a film called Kill the Messenger. It was a film that starred Jeremy Renner. I haven't seen Kill the Messenger, but I do like Jeremy Renner as an actor, But I haven't seen this film though. But it had like it had a limited release. This film also didn't make any money. Didn't make no money overseas. Just made money only in the U.S. here. So yeah, on a budget I've looked at, it was a budget of 5 million, and it didn't. It made like just like a little over 2 million. So that film, so this film, Kill the Messenger, didn't do well, even with a limited release. Like I said, some films with has limited release don't do well. So Kill the Messenger at a budget of 5 million, made like 2 million, didn't do well. Another small box office flop. Next one we have another low budget film. This one had a budget of 1 million, and this one also got a limited release. It barely made over barely made like 500,000. That was it. And there's a film called 23 Blast. It's a football sports film. Especially it was directed by Dylan Baker, who played Dr. Connor in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. He also was on a role in the Secretariat though. I believe this is his first film that he directed, and he directed this film. And on a budget of 1 million, didn't do well, even on a limited release. On a budget of 1 million, made like 549,000, and that was it. So even the films on a budget of 1 million don't do well as well. So yeah, 23 Blasts. That was like another one of the. I believe that's like the smallest box office flop of this year. These next films I'm saying they're still in theaters, but as a currently up right now, they're not doing well, whether it's domestically or overall. So yeah, so the next film that I also enjoyed this year, Penguins of Madagascar. And I did like a vlog of its box office disappointment, and I said that might have said that it might be a box office flop, but as of right now, the Penguins of Madagascar, like I said, I do enjoy the film, but it's too bad this film is doing poorly in the U.S., especially on a great DreamWorks animation franchise, or the Madagascar franchise, This film had on a budget of 132 million, and yeah, like I said, is making money overseas. Combined total is like 230 million, but domestically in the U.S. is doing poorly, It only made currently is now making of 70 million on a budget of 132 million domestically, 70 million. Even though over worldwide it's 230 million though, but I don't think at the end of its theoretical run, it's not gonna. I believe it's not gonna make 100 million. So. And it's such a shame, because I enjoy the Penguins of Madagascar, I like the characters, and the voice cast, And it's a shame they still, especially probably in the categories of DreamWorks films that did, that's considered a disappointment, like Rise of the Guardians, that film had a much budget, a bigger budget of 145 million, and that film barely made a little over 100 in the U.S., and yeah, with some help overseas, made like 303 million though, but domestically, that didn't do well, So yeah, but I think Penguins of Madagascar is like the worst of the DreamWorks animation films, like to do poorly on such a big budget, And it's a shame, because I enjoy the Penguins of Madagascar. So yeah, on a budget of 132 million domestically, overall made 230 million currently right as of right now though, but currently right now is domestically is made 70 million. So it's not gonna. I don't think it's not gonna make at least 100 million. So yeah, it's a shame. So I had to put this. I had to put this on my list. Because I see it as I see it as I call it. So yeah, Penguins of Madagascar. Now the next film, like I said, the next film this still play this came out and it's still playing. And it's Ridley Scott's biblical film Exodus, Gods and Kings. Now this had even more of a big budget, and it's still making less what Penguins have made domestically. As of currently right now, as it's made 52 million in the U.S. and it's on a budget of 140 million. It's still right now making worldwide 148 million, but still domestically, I would still put this as another big box office bomb in the U.S. because it has overall on the weekend it may have had a poor opening. I would say poor because it made not a big impact. Made 24 million overall on the weekend, and now it's making 52 million domestically on a budget of 140 million. But yeah, still making some help overseas though, make a little more money overseas though. So overall, made 148 million, but domestically, I put this in another big box office bomb in the U.S. So yeah, Exodus, Gods and Kings. I put this on the list because of that reason. Now on this next film, that just also came out, still playing, which I consider as a surprise because then a film is not doing that well. Considering the last two films were much bigger hits. And that is the last Night at the Museum film, Night at the Museum: Secret of the Tomb, the last in the trilogy. And this film is not doing it well as I expected. Especially this is one of Robin Williams' last films, and also the last film of for star Mickey Rooney as well, Both so this film was dedicated to both their memories, and I expected this film. I know because it had faced competition on the same weekend as The Hobbit, Battle of the Five Armies, and when it opened up, it had a poor opening of 17 million, and on a budget of 127 million. And as of currently right now, it's made 54 million in the U.S. and as of currently right now, it's made at like 102. And I consider it as a disappointment, considering the first film made over 500 million, the second film made over 400 million. Maybe I'll probably make at least under 200 million. So yeah, I was surprised this film was not doing that well, considering for one of the last films of the late great Robin Williams. Yeah, so Night at the Museum, Secret of the Tomb, a budget of 127 million. Currently, right now, is making 54 million U.S. and overall worldwide 102 million. Yeah, so that's so this is currently right now. It may change maybe after, but still, I'm putting it as I see it as of right now. So, and now the last film the last big box office flop of this year is a film called Selma. Selma, I think it's a film about Martin Luther King Jr. Because I saw the poster. It looks like it's in black and white, and it looks like the Martin Luther King Jr. from his showing from his backside. It looks like him speaking of the audience. I assume that's what it is. I haven't seen the trailer or anything. It looked like it is. I think I saw the commercial. I would think it was about Martin Luther King Jr. There's a film called Selma. So yeah, this also just came out, and it's also on a budget. Looking at it as a budget of 20 million, and it's right now is making at least 893,000. So maybe when it progresses, probably because sometimes the films starts out with a limited release and later on it gets released worldwide. So maybe it'll make more money after the first weekend of its release. Just like there's a lot of films like that starts off with limited releases and then later on goes like the next weekend or after gets a release worldwide. So probably I assume that and it'll probably make more money after that. But as of right now, it's is not doing that well on a budget of 20 million. Made still making like over 800,000. So who knows? Maybe it will make more money if it does get like a worldwide release, instead of a limited release, So, although I'm calling it as I see it, So yeah, so that's pretty much it. So that's pretty much my list of all the box office bombs of 2014, So. So hope you like this video. So at the start of this year, so I will do like I did at the beginning of this year. I'll do a video like future bombs of 2015. Which I'll give a look over what the films are coming out, and I'll predict what films are gonna bomb. Now the films that I predicted this year that I thought would bomb though, but surprisingly it didn't. The ones I predicted that Divergent was gonna not do well, but surprisingly it proved me wrong. It made a big impact, and it's gonna get it's gonna get a franchise based on the books. Like following the category like the Twilight, Harry Potter, Hunger Games films. So yeah, so next year, I believe in March is Insurgents the next sequel, Insurgents, coming out. So I know it's gonna make myself. I have no doubt. So yeah, so that proved me, but the first one proved me wrong. So, and the next film I also predicted that I know will probably make money, but I said it anyway though because I had a big budget, and that was Maleficent. Yeah, so yeah, Maleficent had on a big budget of 180 million. I said it probably would flop though, but my opinion on that changed really fast when it made all this big amount of money. I was like, no way, Yeah, I think that was pretty much it. I think that was like the two films that proved me wrong this year that I thought would flop though, but it didn't. So yeah. So hope you enjoyed this video. So this is once again off of my list. I'll repeat one more time quickly through. Legend of Hercules, I, Frankenstein, Labor Day, Vampire Academy, RoboCop 2014, Winter's Tale, Pompeii, Veronica Mars, Sabotage, Under the Skin, Transcendence, Legends of Oz, Dorothy's Return, Edge of Tomorrow, The Rover, As So It Goes, Sin City, A Dame to Kill For, The Identical, Tusk, Kill the Messenger, 23 Blast, Penguins of Madagascar, Exodus, Gods and Kings, Ninth Museum, Secret of the Tomb, and Selma. And like I said, the last four films are still currently in theater, so who knows what will happen though. But I call it as I saw though, as I see it though. So even though some films are made over its budget worldwide though, but domestically, didn't do well domestically, So yeah, so that's my box office bombs of 2014. And now hopefully stay tuned for hopefully my video in 2015. I'll do my video of the future. I predict for the future box office bombs of 2015, which I'll do that when the time comes. As of right now, this is my my video of box office bombs 2014. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Take care and stay tuned. Now I believe I'll be getting to my my videos of my worst films of 2014 and my best films of 2014. So I will begin when the time ends. I will do those videos. So yeah, so thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next reviews later.